All right, we are live. Lorna, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How about you?
I am doing good. Busy week, especially with travel, but luckily I have you on the team, so everything's going to be just fine.
Right? I'll be putting out fires if necessary.
There shouldn't be too many fires here this week, but really excited to have you on here with this live coming up on. I can't believe it's already been almost 3 months since you've joined me as my executive assistant. So I know you and I were kind of talking last week. I thought it'd be a really good time. We were doing our quarterly planning meeting. So if anybody's familiar with EOS and the entrepreneurial operating system, that's what we're running Builders of Authority on. So we kind of said, hey, one of these upcoming live trainings, let's literally kind of introduce you to everybody. I know you're in the main Builders of Authority group as well as the private group. Obviously, you're starting to get connected with a lot of the people that I'm connected with, but just doing kind of like a quick interview, getting to know you a little bit better. Also, I think a lot of people struggle with understanding the power of having an executive assistant. I know I did before you. I never really had an executive assistant. I had multiple people that would like help out in different areas. But the minute, like pretty quickly, as I was telling everybody, like when you were just focused on understanding all of the different things that I was doing and piecing those things together, it helped me understand that a lot of my frustration having the visionary mindset was kind of solved by one person just kind of understanding how all of those things kind of played together. So talk to me a little bit about like that specifically, like what your first impression of like understanding like what a visionary and CEO is kind of thinking. And as you saw me running in all these different directions, like what was your first, and you don't have to like hold back, but like what was your first impression and what was like going through your mind during that process?
I think that what made the process easier was the fact that you had me do all these meetings, like with the people that you were working with. So I was able to talk to all these people and ask them, like, what's your relationship with Adam? What do you do? What would you think is the best way to optimize this relationship? And I was able to see like where you were and all the things that was like so many things that you were doing. And I was like, when does he have time for anything? Because it was, I interviewed like how many people? I don't know. It was so many people, so your hands were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That helped me like to get sense of like what you were doing. And also the videos, remember that you made me like watch videos for like the your meetings. This helped me a lot, I think, because I was able to like capture your everyday. And it was good. It was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
um what else? Training, well, you didn't have much time to train me. but
Yeah.
but I think that if you put like the will to do something, you can do it. Like the visionary, and I'm like the organizer, so that helps, you know.
Yeah. I think that is brings up a super crucial point. But before I bring up this point, if you guys have any questions on Builders of Authority, questions on personal branding, questions on Lorna's role, executive assistant, what type of stuff she does and helps me out, throw those questions in the comments. I know that people have questions on this specific topic because anytime I talk to people about executive assistants and stuff that Lorna's doing, I get a lot of questions. So don't hold back. This is the time to ask Lorna and ask me, and we can kind of workshop stuff together. But going back all the way to like when actually before I hired you is I took the Colby test, you took the Colby test. There was stuff on like complete opposite ends for the most part, but then there was also a little bit of overlap in certain areas that I remember kind of taking a look at it and reading the results. Is like those were some good areas to have an overlap, right? And I think so often, a lot of times people assume like, oh, hey, I can hire somebody that is very, very similar to me, or I can partner with somebody in business that's very, very similar to me. And every time I've done that, if it was a role which was supposed to be complementing my role, like a COO or an executive assistant or a project manager or whatever it might be, there was always usually a little bit of like clashing of the heads if I hired a person with the same skill set as I was, right? Because I needed somebody to pick up the pieces where I basically had the puzzle like all over the place. You're like, no, hey, let's go put the puzzle together. Is that kind of accurate?
Yes, definitely. I think that it helps I think we complement each other, you know. It's like we're opposites, you know. When you make me do that test, I was like, huh, I've never done like a test like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe we're not going to be compatible, you know? And the fact that we were not compatible was the best part. Because, yeah,
Absolutely.
it's the best part because we do like complement each other, not being the same.
Yep, absolutely. And somebody had a question right here. Jacob asked, how did this role of EA compare to virtual assistant? If you have a virtual assistant that's operating as your executive assistant, it could easily be referenced as the same thing. What we were more so referring to, and what I think people tend to go and maybe miss the boat on, is they'll get, 4 virtual assistants, maybe, let's just call it that. And they won't have somebody that's working hand in hand with them on all of their stuff. So like our goal is to bring on more team members, whether those are virtual assistants or people here in the States or wherever they're located, right? But without an executive assistant, without somebody that is like your right hand, not necessarily a COO to that degree, but could be eventually the COO, but somebody that understands like all the moving parts and pieces. They're able to like help you be organized. They take care of a lot of like the behind the scenes admin stuff. What really changed for me, Jacob, in that mindset was reading Dan Martell's book, which was Buy Back Your Time. It changed my entire thought process on hiring, when to hire, who to hire, how to hire, and especially making that first hire. So I literally made a YouTube video like months ago that said like, hey, after reading that book, he literally said like the first role that you should hire in your company is an executive assistant. And a lot of times, and I did this in previous companies, I would go hire like a COO and then need to go hire, account managers. And then I would need to hire a sale. Like I would go and hire for all of these things, great people. It worked out, but I could have done things more efficiently, probably for the business, by hiring an executive assistant like I did this time around with Lorna, because now she understands how all the inner workings are. And as we start to bring in new people, as Lorna like laughed and mentioned, is in the beginning, I didn't have a whole lot of time to train her. And I also am not the greatest person at training people in our company, right? Or just in any company, right? But now she has enough of a understanding. Whereas if the first person I hired was a sales rep and then an account manager and then a COO, and then like finally I took care of a lot of the admin tasks and things that Lorna's taking care of, that would have been like completely opposite to the way that we do things now. So it's more so about specifically the tasks that they're doing versus EA being different from a virtual assistant, if that makes sense. But Lorna's been an incredible asset, not just to me because we are so different, but to our Builders of Authority community and also our ongoing clients. So Lorna, talk to us a little bit about like your background, kind of where you came from experience wise, and some of your, strong skill sets and things like that.
Okay, so I'm an architect. I studied architecture in Taiwan. Um, I love all the part like logistics and operations part of things of like everything of this. I suppose it might be because like some of my jobs were like uh, like construction, but I was in charge of like a group of people. uh I'm like very, attention to detail is like my second name, and the part of being organized, like always like a project manager, it's organization, and giving all the construction has to be on time. So I think that that's what makes me maybe different. um the part, I'm like very artistic, so the part I love doing Canva, and that has been helpful. And then learning this part, my mom, all her life she was in advertising, so I had like this background that made it easier for me to, when I joined the team, I had some knowledge, so. And I quickly like fell in love with all this part of marketing and branding. And well, since I was organized, I was able to like uh, make my time work with it. And you were able also and willing to like invest in resources for me to get trained. You were not
Mm,
there, but you were like investing in me, the chat GPT, the like Canva, the like all those tools that help me help you later.
yeah. Well, I think that's one thing that a lot of CEOs and visionaries struggle with is one, being willing to delegate time. I was on a group coaching call earlier today in another program, and one of the pieces of conversation was like, how do I delegate? When do I delegate? How do I let go of control? And how do I teach people what I know? And it can be a very cumbersome and confusing piece of the business, because if I were to like have you come in again, Lorna, and be like, hey, I don't have necessarily all the time to train you, but I'm not going to let you go do your own training, and I'm not going to let you go build your own processes and systems. I literally told you, and I continuously tell you, like, obviously one of our core values being take action is go build and do whatever you want. And then let's come back and figure out like if it's going to fit, if it's going to work, if it makes sense, versus being like, no, I have to be there with you holding your hand. So I think a lot of business owners struggle and entrepreneurs struggle with micromanaging, even though they say they're not a micromanager, but they need to be involved in everything. The more that business owners are usually involved in all aspects of the business, usually the worse things go, because that's not our strong suit. And that was like kind of pivoting where I want to go with this conversation. Is one of the things is, as we were helping people in Builders of Authority, we have our mastermind. So we had 3 calls a week. We just made some updates, which I'll share here in a second. But one of the things is people were doing so much more. They were building their personal brands, posting more on social media. They're adding new platforms. They're starting their own podcast, being a guest on podcasts. And then they kept asking like, hey, Adam, where do I get a Lorna? Or I'm looking for my own Lorna now, and all these different things. And so Lorna and I, during our quarterly meeting last Monday, we were kind of going over like the future of Builders of Authority, and kind of, now that this is like our all in thing, what does that look like in the future? And so we decided to scale back to 2 calls a week. So Monday and Wednesday, Monday being just office hours, and Wednesday being a specific training, specific aspect. Like last week was on professional mode and professional dashboard on Facebook and all of those different things. But in addition to the private Facebook group, in addition to getting access to our personal branding course, you now, as a BOA Mastermind member, get 2 additional calls with you every single month that you now have additional access to. And I couldn't think of a bigger value add, just because I've seen in a very short period of time, like what just sitting down with you and like getting super, super focused on, Lorna, I need you to help me with this right now, or I need you to go and do this. We all eventually are going to need a Lorna, for example, but a lot of our members are just getting started in this avenue of personal branding or growing the business or starting a new business, and they don't have the ability to go hire that person. Or even if they did go hire that person, they don't know how to train that person. They don't understand what it's like to work with somebody that isn't like-minded like them, like a visionary or whatever. So one of the many different things that Lorna is going to be able to do for our mastermind members now is to meet them where they're at, whether it's, hey, I need help in organizing some stuff in Canva for my personal brand and social media. I'm onboarding a virtual assistant or an executive assistant, and I want to understand how they can help me, similar to how you help Adam. She's great at processes and systems and admin type things. So I know you've only had a couple of those calls so far, Lorna, but what are some of the things people are already asking, for your advice or assistance on, and how excited are you to kind of start getting even more ingrained with some of our mastermind members?
I'm super excited. I have had meetings already, and I feel like so happy because I've been able to help them. Like at the beginning, I was like nervous and everything, but most everyone wants to know what I do. What is it that you do, or how do we interact? And um, today, one of my calls today was about like how do we do the social media tracking and analytics, and well, that's what I've been doing. So I was happy to help and set that up, and also talk about like the different tasks and how do we like coordinate everything, you know, and things that have become like easy, or like I feel like we're in sync. Like are things that most of our members are like curious about because they want to know and to get their own virtual assistants or executive assistants uh, doing this, and maybe they haven't like thought about it. And then I just tell them like, yeah, I am doing the, I don't know, the lead magnet, and they're like, oh, I can make my VA do that, and things like that. So yeah, it's been fun, and I feel happy that I'm helping them too.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's ultimately going to, make you into a much more effective, just overall resource for everything that we're doing. Because when you're on the front line in communicating with a lot of our members outside of those calls, I think a lot of times in group call situations, while those are super, super effective and it's about the group and not necessarily like me or you or the strategies that we've talked about, it is nice to be able to like sit down with somebody and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, or this is what I need a little bit more clarity on, and this is what I need some direct assistance with, because trying to do that in a group setting at times can be a little bit, overwhelming, right? And so I know, we've kind of chatted about this a little bit. We touched a little bit on it during our quarterly meeting, but coming into like this world of stuff, whether it's the digital marketing and personal branding stuff, or it's the business coaching and masterminds, whatever space we're in, right? What have you noticed? I know you kind of shared some stuff on the call yesterday as far as just like your growth during this time, but what have you enjoyed about like this role? Maybe not better than other roles you've done, but like what has excited you about what you've done so far and how you've grown in just a very short period of time, and what you're also looking forward to doing here, in the future as a part of Builders of Authority?
Well, the professional growth definitely number one, and the tools. That I love the Chat GPT training, the YouTube training. I think those are like awesome skill sets to have, and so I love learning. So I think that's really important for because you're like are things that I'm going to use to help you, but it's an added value to me. So the fact that you're investing in me, I think that's like super important. I feel more, I don't know, secure. I feel like I, mm, like I can do it all, you know, like I feel empowered. That will be the word. um about what I do and how I'm doing things, because I have learned, and I have learned from you, which I admire you. So I feel so good about it. I feel that I'm learning things that are uh super important right now in the world that we live in. Technology and social media, it's what's the future, it's this. So I think that's the part that I've enjoyed the most, and I'm learning that I really like doing the whole social media tracking and all that. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think a lot of people need to hear those things in terms of like when you invest in your team, what the ripple down, effect and results ultimately are, right? Like we get so worried of like, oh my gosh, I have to hire a new employee and then I have to train them and I have to invest in them. And they look at it as expenses versus like I've told you from the beginning, like I'm looking at this as, hey, I want you here for the long haul. I'm investing in you because I know when I invest in you and anybody that we bring on, assuming it's a good fit and they want to stay around, like that's only going to help me, but it's going to help our community and our members and the mission really that we're doing. Whereas I think a lot of people struggle and be like, oh my gosh, I don't know, how can I afford this? It's like, I don't know how you can't afford this. Because can you imagine right now if I were doing all of the things these last 3 months? I mean, I would have found a way to screw it up like royally, right? That's just what happens because there's only so much capacity for CEOs and business owners. So you have to, again, look at this as when I bring on the right people and I invest in them and I give them the tools to be successful, the right people will take advantage of that and grow. And I will say, like, your overall confidence from when you first started, of course, like in a new role and all that stuff, but you can see a night and day difference. It was there all along. You just needed to like understand that although this be something new and different, you had what it took to be successful from the beginning. And now you're able to make an even bigger impact. And as you mentioned, you now have this skill set and experience that like is so well versed for whatever the future holds, right? Um, and I think that's where people miss a lot of the boat as well, is like investing in people and understanding that the impact on that and the return on investment is infinite when done correctly. So we got probably like 10 minutes or so left here, guys and gals. If you have any other questions, again, on virtual assistants, on builders of authority, on personal branding, anything at all, put those in the comments. This is literally the perfect time to ask those questions. If you're watching the replay, feel free to write a question and we'll answer the comments here later, either Lorna or myself. So with some of the, updates and additions and things like that we made to Builders of Authority, we again took away one call. We added 2 additional calls that you get 1-to-1, 30 minutes every single month with Lorna to use basically however you'd want. You get access to the personal branding course. You get access to all the past recalls or past calls and recording, as well as the private Facebook group. So a lot of like different tangible items that you get, but even more value, more direct short-term and long-term impact that you get access to. So what we did there is the pricing there is $500 a month with a one-time setup fee of $1,000. Essentially, that just protects us because, we put a lot of energy into onboarding, which you get a 30-minute onboarding call with us as well as that course that we built out and we sell for over $1,000 one time right now. So if you have any questions, if you're interested in setting up a call with us and learning a little bit more about what Builders of Authority can do, again, we're only continuing to add more and more resources and value adds into the group. Feel free to leave a comment, shoot me a message. We can set up a call and see if it makes, any sense at all. And if you're interested in our 1-to-1, we have one spot available left right now, but that's $1,500 a month with a one-time setup of $2,500. So that gets you 2 additional calls with me every single month, in addition to those 2 calls that you get with Lorna. So again, from a one-to-one standpoint, if you're really looking to truly understand personal branding and you want to work one-to-one with me, helping you understand how to become the authority in your industry, we have all these different value adds that we're putting in there. We're going to continue to do that. Pricing will continue. I was talking with somebody earlier today that was like, Adam, I remember when you first posted that it was $250 a month. I should have hopped on it then. Now he's going to be signing up hopefully here in the next week or so at a not a much higher rate, $500 plus $1,000 setup, but take action now. We are only increasing the amount of value that we're providing to you, which of course at times will come with an increase in price. So don't be left hanging. Send us a message, take action now. Again, you get additional access to Lorna, the person that literally is side by side with me all day long. So if you want to understand more of what I'm doing or understand how you can implement these things into your business, this is the perfect way to do that.
Yeah.
So Lorna, any additional like last second thoughts, feedback, or if anybody's listening that's like interested in Builders of Authority or is going to hire an executive assistant, any last pieces of advice or tidbits?
I would say that the one of the most important things is to actually implement what you learn. And I would say that the difference between a BA and an executive assistant is what you make them do or how you teach them to do the things that you want them to do. Because if you give them the tools and the opportunity to like be that right hand and like have them do something specific to that, and not just like uh, sometimes VAs are taken just like for like general things or like, let's say, cold callings. So you have to be willing to teach them and train them. If it's the right person, it will fit.
Mm. I think it's very important, and it's not that if they're not if they fit with your core values, right? So if they're a good company fit and there is another role available for them, it's better to do that sooner rather than later than be like, hey, this is the perfect person, but this is the role that I really, really need help with right now. I got to make it and force it and all those different things. When the right person is in the right seat, that's when everything starts to like really click and have a ripple down effect of the impact of what we're doing in business, right? So I thought that was a great way to kind of wrap everything up. As far as what we have going on with Builders of Authority, we're actually going to be making an announcement here later this week on our Builders of Authority live event, which will be happening this summer in June. So we'll be announcing event number 2. More details and sales will be opening up on Friday. So I'll be making a little bit of a post here this afternoon, just kind of teasing that situation. But really, really excited on that. Excited on some of the updates that we have here. Again, as far as recapping everything today, our BOA Mastermind members now get 2 30-minute calls with Lorna every single month. We do have some openings with our one-to-one program. Shoot us a message. Feel free to set a call, up with us. We can have you hop on a call with Lorna, hop on a call with Lorna and myself, whatever makes the most sense. If it is a good fit, we're ultimately going to tell you that. If it's not a good fit, I was talking with somebody earlier today and they were looking, for specific, like, hey, I want digital marketing and business coaching and all those different things. Like, that's not what this is in Builders of Authority. This is personal branding, leveraging who you are as the individual. So that way you can become the authority in your market, step away from some of the stuff that you're already doing to truly be known for X, Y, and Z service in X, Y, and Z area. So we'll give you the blueprints. We'll give you the course. We'll teach you the ins and outs of what you need to know in order to become the authority. And we'll do it in a group setting or one-to-one, whatever makes sense. So Lorna, thanks so much for hopping on today. I really appreciate your insights. I know a lot of people are going to get value from this live, but thank you so much. And I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. It was great. I really appreciate it. Everything too.
Of course. Absolutely.